Star Wars Outlaws is available now. And if early, mixed at best reaction from gamers out there is any indication in terms of the forward guidance for the game's sales on this one, then Ubisoft might be the next major gaming company to get dragged down to the depths of hell.
So far, nothing feels like Star Wars. At all.
Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. Make sure to join us every Sunday and Wednesday afternoon right here on Valiant Renegade at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. From the Financial Times, Ubisoft needs a stellar launch of Star Wars Outlaws. Shares of the game maker have already tumbled, but that does not mean earnings downgrades cannot push them lower still. This from August 30th, just a couple of days ago. The FT says, the Force, the unseen power central to the Star Wars universe, is fading. Following a flop for Disney's latest spin-off TV series, The Acolyte.
We were on the brink of extinction!
Ubisoft will be hoping its Star Wars Outlaws game won't go the same way. Already, the French video game maker offered up weaker than expected guidance in its most recent quarterly earnings results, which sent the shares tumbling. With them now trading close to a decade low, the company needs Friday's launch of Outlaws to succeed to restore the balance. First quarter results last month repeated a game that Ubisoft shareholders have played before. Delays to new releases muddied already lumpy earnings. This time, the launch of Rainbow Six Mobile and a new Division game has been pushed back to next year. That only increases the market's focus on this year's titles, namely Star Wars Outlaws and the next installment of the Assassin's Creed franchise, Shadows. And just to give you a rough idea of how bad things are for Ubisoft, look where it was back in February of 2021, trading at roughly $84 per share. But now, in late August of 2024, about 3.5 years later, we've got Ubisoft currently trading at $16.83. That alone should concern investors tremendously. But unfortunately, the story for Ubisoft isn't over yet because Star Wars Outlaws doesn't look like it's coming in hot. And there's still a lot of questions out there about Assassin's Creed Shadows later this year. Now, making things even more tenuous for Ubisoft, the company's guidance for the second quarter implies that Star Wars Outlaws sales may disappoint. Ubisoft expects net bookings of roughly 500 million euros. Before July's update at the earnings call, the market had been expecting closer to 650 million euros. Analysts have slashed the number of copies of Outlaws they expect the company to sell. The guidance translates into 5 million copies in the quarter, and that is from Nick Dempsey at Barclays Bank, down from a prior forecast of 8 million. Now, let me explain something very clearly. Analysts' forecasts on Wall Street are often based around, obviously, their own expectations that are based in evidence that they have. Not every bit of evidence. That is to say, they don't have up-to-the-minute sales figures, up-to-the-minute revenues, up-to-the-minute operating income for a company as a quarter is in progress. But they should have, based on guidance and data available from third-party sources and the general sense of the market, they usually get pretty close. And a lot of times, companies will suffer either good or bad days following an earnings call if they were to, say, meet expectations, exceed expectations, or fall short of those expectations by analysts. A lot of the stock price gets baked in before you get to those earnings calls. Now, in the case of Ubisoft, and specifically in the case of Star Wars Outlaws, that's a real, and I mean tremendous, enormous, gargantuan problem. If original indications from major Wall Street investment firms like Barclays Bank We're assuming that in this fiscal quarter that Ubisoft would sell 8 million units of Outlaws, and that forecast was then slashed all the way down to 5 million. We're approaching a nearly 50% reduction in expectations. Really on the order of about 40% in that case, but getting close to half. That is enormous, and that is a disaster for Ubisoft and for Disney Lucasfilm Star Wars. What exactly could have possibly caused the investment analysts at Barclays Bank like Nick Dempsey to pare back their expectations for the sales of this potentially doomed video game, at least from a financial perspective? Well, recently, on a previous live show right here on Valiant Renegade, our good friend Stuttering Craig from Side Scrollers joined us and told us what he had heard.
I actually have a little exclusive for you. I think this game is dead on arrival, right? And this is not just based off of our audience and the overall general response to this. I have an insider who works at a very big box retailer in a very high trafficked area in very high traffic stores. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were telling me about the pre-order numbers for this. Mm-hmm. And they were able to access their database of over 900 stores across the United States. And the number of pre-orders that they have for Star Wars Outlaws for both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox combined. So over 900 stores. How many pre-orders for a AAA Star Wars game do you think for 900 stores you would see? Just over 3,000 copies.
Holy hell.
Just over 3,000 copies between the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox in a, when I say major retailer, major retailer.
Make your assumptions, audience. Whatever you're going to. So 3,000 physical copies were pre-ordered for this. I mean, man, that's not a lot at all. I mean, again, I know physical is going down, but I mean, geez.
Well, let me put that in perspective for you, right?
Yeah.
The same insider told me that when Zelda was released, the latest Zelda,
that's like about what, a year ago?
About a year ago, right?
Okay.
There was 150 pre-orders per store.
Whoa. So yeah, we're talking over what, 100,000?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. That means as of right now, this is one of the worst pre-ordered games that could possibly be out there. And we're talking about major AAA games that have quite literally hundreds of millions of dollars invested in their development and production. In the case of Star Wars Outlaws, this game probably cost at least around $200 million to get from concept to console. And of course, that includes Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, all around. But if what Stuttering Craig is telling us is true, or rather, what his source was informing him was true, then this might be one of the most expensive flops of all time. And especially when you consider it's connected to a major intellectual property like Star Wars. Thanks to a string of flops at Ubisoft, Financial Times concludes with the company leaving full-year guidance unchanged as of the last quarterly earnings update. It means that Assassin's Creed Shadows will have to pick up the slack, ostensibly for Star Wars Outlaws' failure, when it releases in November of this year. About 13.5 million copies will need to be sold for Assassin's Creed Shadows. While true that the previous iteration of Valhalla franchise sold 13 million copies, a repeat performance may be unlikely. At 10 times forward earnings, Ubisoft shares are already trading at the bottom of their 30-year historical valuation range. In other words, Ubisoft is desperately in need of Star Wars Outlaws to be a massive success to pull them out of the financial gutter. And as of right now, it just doesn't look like that's going to happen. So what exactly is it that has gone so wrong with this game? Well, quite honestly, I think it's a multifaceted problem, some of which you can see on the screen right now. But let's talk about the specifics and listen to some actual gamers and Star Wars fans that have played it and have had bad experiences.
So far, nothing feels like Star Wars. at all. I mean, dude, like, we've been asking for an Old Republic game for how many years?
I'm left feeling just so robbed of what could have been an absolutely great experience in exchange for literally just grabbing materials. That's all there is, man. It's, oh my God.
You guys got so much money. Just put it into making games. A good game. Not this. Like, no one asked for this game. No one wanted this game.
There are moments in this game that are Mass Effect Andromeda level bad in the terms of facial motion capture. It's really sometimes bad.
But he told me you could mod my speeder?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I've got every part you could want. I mean, mag fins, aftermarket sensors, booster coils.
How about a hydro repulsor?
Oh.
Now, besides bad character animation and, frankly, clunky scripting and dialogue, unengaging gameplay that gets to be boring and repetitive and, as Star Wars Theory says, doesn't really feel like Star Wars. One of the other major problems seems to be that this game came to market before it was even remotely ready. In fact, it was so not ready for prime time and so bad that Ubisoft had to release a day one patch for the video game, which is not terribly uncommon for some of these things. But this one was so egregious, apparently, that it compelled users who paid $120+ for early access to Star Wars Outlaws to erase their current game and effectively start over if they had spent 2 or 3 days advancing through significant portions of the game. Guess what? It was all for naught. Congratulations on paying a huge premium for early access. You did not get any of your money's worth because the game apparently was so screwed up that it required these players to either reset to a whole new game or continue with the game they had until it crashed and they'd have to start over anyway. To me, this seems like a nearly unforgivable product failure. It's like putting out a brand new car from a major manufacturer, and then just a few weeks after everybody buys the vehicles, they realize that the entire engine and transmission is faulty and needs to be brought back to have everything replaced. You're out of a car for probably at least a month, and, well, good luck with you, but congratulations for paying your new car price and premium. No, there would be absolute hell to pay, and I suspect the same thing is going to be true here for Ubisoft and Disney Star Wars. And just to show that we're right on the money with this, the game has not even been out for a day, and already Star Wars Outlaws is on sale for PC and Xbox at, quote, a scoundrel's low price. Retailer CD Keys is showing that the PC version's standard editions for Star Wars Outlaws typically retail up to this point at $70 a copy. Right now, it's been marked down to $55. The MSRP for the Gold Edition, which is $110, marked down to $87.09. A roughly 20-some-odd% reduction. And the $130 Ultimate Edition also lowered somewhere to the tune of about 25% down to $100. And the Xbox editions have a similar story. Highly successful games that come out of the gate with huge sales numbers do not suddenly and immediately discount their product. Go back and think to last year of things like Hogwarts Legacy, which have reportedly sold roughly 20-some-odd million copies. It might be more since that last report. Star Wars Outlaws, in order to be a financial success, would need to sell probably at least half of those numbers of copies. Again, when you think of what people are going to pay for this game, maybe an average over time of around $60 per copy, well, you've got to also net out the fact that Disney, Lucasfilm, and Ubisoft, especially, they don't get all of those dollars back. Many of those dollars will stay with the retailers. Some of those dollars get fed back to places like Sony and Xbox as licensing fees to be on their console platforms. So what Ubisoft is actually getting back to recoup their cost, not to mention the cost of licensing the content from Disney Star Wars itself, is a far, far lower figure. And that's why these game sales need to be high to justify these huge AAA budgets. Because of all the glitches and because of the repetitive and boring gameplay, according to many gamers out there, There has been obviously a lot of justified, at least insofar as we're concerned, criticism of Star Wars Outlaws, but that hasn't gone unnoticed. Apparently now some Reddit users are finding their critiques of this game, their honest criticism of the failures of this game, are being censored on places like Reddit. This in the last couple of days from John Trent at thatparkplace.com. We urge you guys and girls out there watching, make sure you check out thatparkplace.com each and every day for all the news updates that you need. Star Wars Outlaws subreddit reportedly bans users for criticizing Ubisoft's game. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the Sunday live show here on September 1st. Today, as many of you may be watching this video, make sure you stop by for that one. But the reality is this. What is causing the problems with Outlaws? Well, apart from everything we said before that this game was clearly not ready for prime time, there's another issue here. Ubisoft has spent more money on a marketing campaign for this game, Star Wars Outlaws, than they ever have in their past. And they are more desperate for this game's success than any game they've had before. Again, Ubisoft has had a string of failures, and right now, their market cap, or what people think the company is worth, is now at a far lower point today than it has been in quite a long time. But look at the headline here from IGN if you want a bit of a clue as to what's going on. Star Wars Outlaws, says IGN, essentially delivers a Han Solo-like experience in both good and bad ways. Now, you could stop right there and probably see the problem. We're back to the same old song and dance from Kathleen Kennedy Lucasfilm, and that is, the old male heroes are bad. We need to move on from the Skywalkers because the women that run Lucasfilm don't like the white male savior complex. They have talked about this openly for many years. This was a situation where they wanted to create yet another female hero that nobody asked for, that nobody wanted. And I want to remind folks that the Walt Disney Company back in 2012 decided to convince shareholders that they should put up $4 billion of company capital to buy Star Wars. In other words, Disney spent $4 billion to get the rights to Han Solo. And then when they go to make a video game, we get a Han Solo-like character. We get Brand X. We get Great Value brand Han Solo and Great Value brand X Star Wars. Look, it could have been a fine game if they had developed the mechanics of it properly and actually made it entertaining, which is probably, again, the biggest complaint that we've heard about this game to date. But the reality is, you have to make a game like this that has hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm talking $2 to $3 to maybe $400 million when you include the marketing budget from Ubisoft of capital expenditure and capital investment into this product. You had better make it appealing to the biggest, widest audience possible. So my question is, why not actually use Han Solo? Why give us Kay Vess, a character that nobody knows, nobody has heard of, that is dressed up like Han Solo, that is a Han Solo type smuggler and scoundrel, but is not Han Solo. We even have other characters in the game like Lando Calrissian that show up, and allegedly even Han Solo at some point. Why not just give us Han? The folks out there playing and the people who may like this game, who are going to watch it almost invariably fail financially as time goes on here in the next few weeks when it's forgotten, have got to understand that the marketplace is what it is, whether you like it or not. Star Wars is a male-dominated audience. It has been since inception. Again, it doesn't mean that women don't enjoy it, but women don't enjoy it in the same numbers that men do, and men have different tastes and preferences than the ladies. In addition to that, gaming is a male-dominated audience. And again, you need to cater to them as well. This would have been a very easy situation for Ubisoft to do. And even if you wanted to give us a female character, maybe give us one that was a little bit more attractive to look at instead of nerfing a very attractive actress that was hired to be the body, face, and voice model for this character and dumb her down to what we got. The bottom line is this: Disney Lucasfilm once again engineered a very expensive product that was not designed to give fans, actual Star Wars fans, what they wanted, but what they thought they should get because of racism and misogyny or whatever. We have heard the song and dance of the Force is female for so long now, it's gotten tiring. But as of right now, the only people that are truly suffering are those that are invested in companies like Disney and Ubisoft, and it doesn't look like things are going to get a whole lot better anytime soon for either. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.